Hey, it's Danny, and I want to make a quick video to answer a question that someone sent in, and they were asking how I find or create inner strength. And it's a really important and profound question. I mean, business is wonderful and it's exhilarating, but it can also be challenging. There are ups and downs, and you need to have that inner strength to weather those challenges, to maintain that vision, to know that, yes, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep going even though it's hard, even though I had this setback, etc. And so the first thing that goes into creating that inner strength is you got to create a space for it. So many of my videos are out walking. This is a trail I do regularly, like every morning when I'm at our cottage in the city. I have a different trail, but same thing. I'll walk 40-45 minutes every morning. And it's a little bit like that line about meditation, that you should meditate 30 minutes a day. Unless you don't have time, then you should meditate an hour a day. Like, you've really got to create that space for yourself. So having pockets of that every day to think, to reflect, and sometimes I'm listening to podcasts or music or something like that. Sometimes I'm just inspired, so I pull out my phone and I make a quick video for you. But creating that space where there isn't that urgency, people aren't asking you for things all the time, and you can just think and reflect. And then doing that on a more macro level as well. When I'm working through something really challenging with work, it's really common to start feeling depleted, right? Because it's a little bit like that frog that's being boiled in the story, right? You don't feel the water getting hotter, and you don't realize how it's just boiling you. And so in the same way, you feel tired, you feel stressed, you feel worn down, but it's a little bit more every day, and you don't really notice it. You don't realize how much your ability to handle things is degrading. And so it's really important when you're feeling like that, when you're feeling like, oh, I'm tired, when you feel like you need that inner strength, to create some space to step back and really disconnect. And I was away for a couple of weeks earlier this summer, and I remember like 3 or 4 days into it telling my wife and business partner Boomy that I feel the amount of like energized and refreshed and how much perspective I have, the amount I feel of that is disproportionate to the amount of days I've actually been disconnected from work in a good way, in a good sense. And so creating that space is really important, just stepping back, disconnecting, not feeling guilty about that. And instead of feeling like, oh, I've got to get back to work because this or that problem, allowing the space for the creative ideas to start coming back, and they will start pulling you back into the business. So having that time to get centered and get grounded on a daily basis is really important. Having that time to get centered and grounded and regain perspective on a broader cyclical basis, every few months or a couple times a year, whatever frequency makes sense for you, is also really important. And then finally, being plugged into a community of people, and that could be coaches, could be fellow entrepreneurs, could be a faith community that understands where you're at, what you're trying to do, but being plugged into a community of people who can just cheer you on the journey in a very understated, sometimes very implicit kind of way, but just knowing that momentum is there for you, knowing that belief is there supporting you, goes a really, really long way. So anyway, that's my answer. I really hope it's helpful. And thank you for the very important and very profound question. And onward on all of our journeys. Hey, I'm back. One more thing that I wanted to add on this. So, creating the space for that energizing, recharging is really important. What's also really important is what you do with that space. And one of the most important things that I guide my clients and my students to do when they're feeling very challenged is I'll remind them to just reflect on the hard things that they have done in their lives. I'll ask them, like, what are some really hard things that you've done? And they'll tell me about, completing a PhD, or leaving an abusive relationship, or moving to a new city, like things that are really hard. And I'll then ask them, like, just to put in perspective, okay, so this current challenge that you're dealing with, how does it compare with those challenges that you've had to figure out and navigate in the past? And usually it's not at the same scale, and it helps kind of bring things back into perspective. So that's also really important. There's this comic I saw at one point where you've got 3 boxes, and the first box says how things look before you face them. You see this like giant mountain. And the second is how they look as you face them, and it's big but smaller. And then the third box is how things look after you have faced them, and it's like just a little dot in the background, right? Not really important at all. And that's how it is with a lot of hard things that we've done. So just like creating that space is really important, but then also using that space to get some perspective on how does this hard thing that you need inner strength for, how does it compare with other hard things you've done in the past? Because odds are you have the evidence that you actually have that inner strength already. You're just tired. You need to be reminded of who you are and what you're really able to handle. I like to say that the universe doesn't give you more than you can handle, although sometimes we wish the universe didn't think so highly of us. But nonetheless, the universe doesn't give us more than we can handle. So create that space, disconnect, have that room for the inner strength, for that perspective to remind you of who you are and what you're capable of.